Well, greetings, everybody. It's Bob Rivers here, and it's starting to get cold in some of the places you're at, not where I'm at in Las Vegas. But I turned around and I looked at the BobRivers.blog website the other day, and I went, oh, this is the maple syrup store, and maybe it's time to think about, am I going to do maple syrup this year? And, well, I am, if I can, good Lord willing. And I have a team of people to help, as you'll find out. But also, it's time to open the store for the pre-sales. And this will be the 10th year that Lisa and I have made Bob and Lisa's maple syrup. The 10th year. And I do want to introduce you. We're going to have a co-host today, Steve Stockman, my dear radio and filmmaking friend and the author of the book, How to Shoot Video That Doesn't Suck. And I thank him for sitting next to me while we shoot some of these sucky videos. Anyway, I've introduced him before, not enough, though. My partner in crime, making maple syrup. The guy who 10 years ago said, have a taste. Your first taste is free. And the guy who also said, you know, making maple syrup is nothing simpler. You just boil sap until it's syrup. And I thought, well, that can't be expensive to do. That's just boiling stuff. Yes, it's Hank Prouty who started this all off, an old friend of Lisa's, by the way. And let's bring him on the screen right now. Hank is in the storage room for our jugs, containers, packing, shipping, and he's in the barn at Stonehill Farm. Hank, how you doing?
Good. How you doing, Bob?
All right. And by the way, can you see that smile? Let's bring on Steve Stockman, a co-host for the show as well. There is a particular kind of smile that I think is reserved for men who make maple syrup. Men, as you know, don't smile that much. We watch football games and we have these gritty look on our faces, but you look so happy. And this would be my 10th maple syrup season. And each year, Steve is a taste tester of the syrup that you and I make. And in a word, Steve, how do we do?
I think it's phenomenal. But don't send me more than 6 or 7 gallons because it'll just be gone in a week, no matter how much you send. So take it easy this year. Yes.
You're only seeing him from the chest up because
right.
he weighs like 800 pounds.
Yes. I haven't moved in 6 months, really.
That's right. Many of these last 10 years, Steve and I have talked about how there should be a television show about maple syrup. And we even, we've like Syrup Wars or one, they did the, what did they do it with? Gold. What was that gold thing called where they were?
We've gold had fights in the unscripted business about everything,
everything. And Steve would say this would be perfect for a show because you have all of these, basically hard scrabble, old fashioned Americans trying to make a product, and it's got a lot of drama to it. But you just pointed out to me that now there is a show out about maple syrup. What is it?
Yeah, now this is called The Sticky, and it debuted on Amazon Prime last Friday, which I have not seen it yet, but it's being put out weekly. Margot Martindale stars. It's gotten great reviews everywhere I've looked. It's basically a heist thriller that is very, very, very loosely based on a multi-million-dollar theft of maple syrup that happened.
This was in Canada
a few years ago.
Yeah. We remember this, right? It was big news 4 years ago, 5 years ago. Yeah. Okay.
Well, so now you can watch 6 episodes of it. And we could still turn around and make the unscripted version in Vermont, Bob. So let me know when.
I think we should. We've got a lot of film.
Yeah.
All right. Sticky
on Amazon Prime.
Sticky. They didn't go with Sticky Fingers because they didn't want trouble from Mick Jagger.
That's right. And I'm glad we had an opportunity to promote it because poor Jeff Bezos is
he needs the help that Jeff could use. Exactly. He's struggling. All right. So Sticky is the show about maple syrup. And this is the show about our little farm putting out a little syrup and sharing it with you folks. The syrup we make gets rave reviews. And it's primarily because it's made the old-fashioned way. And I know I sound like a Smucker's commercial, but it's really that it's a single batch, small batch, one farm, It's not blended. It's not, all the things they do at a factory to have color and texture match perfectly. This is what came out of the trees on that day.
And you use the whole maple, right? You use the tail of the maple and the snout.
Use the tail. Yeah. The snout is very good. The liver from the maple tree.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a fucking tree. Anyway, so we could bleep that. So we're about to start again. And as many of you know, I moved away from the farm. And every year I hope my treatments go well and that I get a chance to make maple syrup. Well, it's looking good for this year. So now being December is really when a lot of the hard work takes place. Hank, what are you gonna be doing this week?
This week, just probably coming up here and start some boxes.
Making the boxes.
Yep.
Yeah. Show people the boxes. Can you just point the camera?
Well, we got. Let's see. Let me turn this around.
Yeah.
While you're doing that, Hank, I do have a question, which is, why are you starting in the most god-awful, boring spot in the entire maple sugaring process, which is the shipping room?
The shipping room.
Actually, it's not. It's very comfortable up here.
He's there because it's heated.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's 77 degrees there. We're about to go out into the cold. Up here on the second floor is the heart of our IT center for a giant corporate maple syrup little farm. And what you see there are the video cameras connected to a security system so that no matter who you are working on the maple syrup, you can see all of the different parts of the syrup operation. You can see if a tank is overflowing. You can see if, a pipe has burst.
Do people fall into the vats? Does that happen a lot?
No, that's
okay.
That's the beer distillery. I think I used to fall into the vat.
Okay.
All right, Hank, let's go out the door and give a little tour.
See, with Hank's camera work, I'm expecting kind of a horror film here. So that's
that's right. Try to hold it steady. All right, what are we looking at, Hank?
These are our permeate tank and our concentrate tank.
Okay, our permeate tank holds permeate, and I had no idea what permeate was. But if you use reverse osmosis to dry something out, basically, you are left with just water, pure water, nothing else. And we gently use a reverse osmosis system. The big maple syrup producers would have these giant tanks, and they would actually bring the level of sugar from about 2% where it starts up to about 35% before they even start boiling. That's a no-no to us small single batch, small farm syrup makers. In fact, if you talk to the locals, they say, of course you got to use some reverse osmosis because you don't want to spend a ton of money on oil or chop a zillion cords of wood. But if you do it about 11 or 12% sugar, then you have the perfect maple syrup because it doesn't change how much it caramelizes when it boils and the flavor. And the person who first told me about this, of course, was Hank. Because when I met him, he was like, it's super easy to make maple syrup, but it sure would be nice if we had a reverse osmosis that cost $10,000.
Well, it's beautiful, Bob. And
it's gorgeous.
Now, having seen this, I'm thinking of getting one for my house here in Los Angeles.
Yes, just for the living room for fun. Oh, those 3 stacks, by the way, those three stacks are coming from the evaporator, which is on the second floor, and that's where all the steam comes out of.
Steam, and the last one is the burn off and the oil.
Yes, the oil furnace. We use oil because we're supporting the struggling Middle East. No, that's the wrong thing to say. We use oil because it's actually the most energy efficient way to do it, the way we're doing it with a reverse osmosis. It takes very little oil to actually make a gallon of syrup when you do it this way. Okay. Ooh, is there snow out there?
There is.
Wow. Okay.
Those light blue lines are our sap lines.
Yeah.
All right, so we're gonna.
Yeah. Take me in.
Yeah, here we go. Lights on.
Beautiful. All right, here is this. We call it the sugar house because that's what they call it, the sugar house or the sugar shack, right?
The sugar shack.
You prefer shack or house, Steve?
I think shack sounds more colloquial. Sounds like Vermont.
Yeah, it does.
Isn't there a song about that? Sugar Shack?
The Sugar Shack. Yeah, the Archies did Sugar Shack, I believe.
Yeah. Anyway.
Somebody did it. Anyway, I'm going to confess that we have a pretty fancy operation compared to most mom and pops because I'm foolish and kept acquiring more gear. But Hank, could you tell us about a few of the things we're looking at?
All right. Well, I was just looking at all the samples. We take samples of everything we bottle.
Every single night is a different little bottle.
Yep. Different colors. I don't know if you guys can see it on your end or not.
Yeah, we can. Zoom in a little bit more. So it ranges obviously from very light on the left-hand side, extremely light on the left-hand side, to the very dark stuff. And which is better, Hank?
I like the dark. Or medium. Dark.
And you have to say it by the way, the correct New England pronunciation is dark.
Dark.
Now, we're doing this because you're about to start this process, right? When does the actual maple syrup get to my house?
So right now is prepare time. It's also pre-sales on the store, BobRivers.blog. You go there, and this could be the last year, which I've been saying for 10 years now. But I hope that motivates you.
Is the store open
now,
Bob?
The store is open now, BobRivers.blog, and there's a maple syrup link. So right now we sell advance orders, so we know how much to make, and we also know how much we have to make in order to theoretically break even, which is something. Break even is we're about as good as the federal government is at breaking even, which is I would say not so good. Everything is sitting in here ready to be turned on and go. See those blue cylindrical things there? You know what that is?
Those are lemonade coolers. No.
No. Go ahead. Explain, Hank. Explain that process.
A releaser. So what happens is we hook our vacuum to it, our main line, and the sap gets drawn in from these nipples. Our main line's hooked to these. Okay.
Yes.
So it always keeps a vacuum.
You didn't know there would be nipples in this film, but those are the nipples.
Once one of these cylinders are full, this will go up and release the sap into the tank that we have out back.
And what that does, by the way, is that keeps all the vacuum in the line when it's being released so that the pressure on the trees from your vacuum line stays at 100% and doesn't have to be, doesn't have to re-vacuum it up. So it's a very quick process, dumps about 1.5 gallons of sap into a big tank, and then we'll be taking you for a little walk. But Hank is nice and warm.
Now I have a question here. So
for a little while, yeah.
In the only sugar shacks that I've been in, besides this one, they had big open boilers and they put wood underneath and had a wood fire. And then they put in the sap, and you could actually watch it boil. And you would traditionally, I think, sit around and drink many beers while the sap boiled and try to keep the sap going. This doesn't look like that kind of operation.
No.
And that's a typical sugar shack. Hank, describe when you first started boiling at your girlfriend's house.
Yeah, so that was, we used oil. It was very cold in there. Poor Bob would have to cuddle the evaporator to keep warm.
I actually leaned against that thing. But even though you used oil when I was there, that started as a wood evaporator, right? It was conversion.
Her late husband had it as a wood evaporator and converted it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's basically, it's the same. You got to heat the sap It heats up very well with wood, except there are some downsides to using wood. First off, I just don't feel right killing trees to make a tree product.
Yeah, it's like having a chicken omelet, kind of.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
And as it turns out, the oil is actually a super efficient way when you combine it with a little bit of reverse osmosis. But the other problem is there are two kinds of people who sugar. There are those who have burned the pan and liars. It's an old fisherman joke redone. It's like Henry Kissinger's handwriting in the snow. It's a very old joke. But with a wood fire, if something goes wrong and things overheat, you can destroy the pan and you can have a big fire, and it can be really tough. Whereas with oil, there's a switch, and you just throw the switch, and you kill it, and it stops trying to boil. You can't throw a switch and turn a fire off.
Right.
Unless you've got one of those fake gas fireplaces that so many of us have.
Still, it's kind of nice sitting around in a hot room drinking beer, I got to say.
Yes, it is. That part's, that part.
Yeah, we do have.
We're not.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, we're not huge drinkers, but we do enjoy killing mice. We do enjoy the camaraderie. Sometimes, till 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning, I'll be there. Hank has to get up for work. So he's typically out around 9 or 10 o'clock, but sometimes we get carried away shooting the shit and we keep going. So anyway, yeah, I mean, in some ways there it is. It's not turned on yet.
No, it's by the end of the month, this will all be put together and ready.
And it'll be all ready to go. When is it ready to go? Well, when you have a freezing night, but temperatures in the daytime get up into the mid to upper 30s and low 40s. That's when the sap starts running. And the trees sense a differential in pressure, and I believe they're running the sap to protect themselves, right? From refreezing, Hank?
Yes.
No. So wait. So if it's snow on the ground today, but Hank said before we started that it was going to rain possibly tomorrow, does that mean there'll be sap running tomorw?
There could be.
Great question.
Yeah,
there could be.
You're going to have some sugar makers up here gathering sap and boiling. The only thing is, this time of the year, the sugar content isn't that high, so it's very low.
So you're going to get 1%.
Yeah,
you are only going to get maybe a small amount, and then if you start boiling too early, what's going to happen is everything turns to a deep freeze. And the deep freeze may be so bad that you break some lines, and you have to do repairs for a very tiny return on investment. So yes,
Bob and I we do have the equipment to start now. It's what they do is they tap and they keep the high pressure vacuum on the trees so the holes don't heal. So that's how they're starting early nowadays. They leave the vacuum on from here till the end of the sugaring season.
Oh, that's another important thing for you people who are sticking it out through this and really want to know about it. Vacuum pressure on trees is relatively new. Last 20, 30 years. In the old days, they certainly didn't have vacuum pumps. But the vacuum pressure on the trees serves a super important purpose aside from sucking lots of sap out of the trees, more than they would ordinarily give you, sometimes twice as much. But the other thing that the vacuum pressure does is it keeps anything from going back. So what's that? It's got a little check valve in it, right? When I moved to Vermont, I didn't know what a check valve was. I didn't even know what a carburetor was.
When would you use one, really, real life?
Well, I went for nothing. But the check valve is on the tap that goes into the tree. We'll show you one later. And what it does is it prevents any backflow. So the trees don't get any bacteria, which causes the hole to heal and close up. So in the old days, when you were tapping for maple syrup, from the time you tapped, what did you have, Hank? 4 or 6 weeks max, right? Yeah. So this gives us a lengthier season. And as Hank was saying, if we wanted to, we could, work all weekend for 4 cents an hour and make a gallon.
Basically, as a consumer, I think that's a fine idea.
Yeah, no, you'd like it sooner. All right, so yes,
if I was retired, I would do it, but
yeah,
this is
yeah. And by the way, there's usually some retired guy in the mix in a sugar house, at a family sugar house, because he's the one that doesn't have to get up for work. And he's the one who could stay up all night and, make sure the fire doesn't burn the entire farm down. So that's good.
He's also the only one who remembers the ancient art of reverse osmosis as it was practiced by pioneers in the 1700s.
Yes, exactly. Now, reverse osmosis, you use that in your kitchen. If you live in a desert climate like California or Arizona, the water is too hard and you can't really drink it out of the tap. So reverse osmosis, these little things that are under your sink, you might have one, removes just water from the water, and then you drink the water.
Right.
All right. Oh, Hank, show everybody what's behind door number 1.
Yes. That's the reverse osmosis.
Nice.
A lot of valves.
10 grand, by the way. Lisa would just say 10 grand. She doesn't need to know more. But there it is, reverse osmosis machine. You want me to give a little description, Ben, or do you want to do it?
Heat up.
Hank. Hank, you want to describe it?
Oh, no, you go ahead. You're the good describers.
I did a little radio, but I like hearing it from a true Vermonter, because when we started, neither of us even knew what this was. So go ahead.
All right. So like you said, it's reverse osmosis. And what this is doing is taking the water out of the sap. So we get like probably 1.7% out of the trees. And by the time we get done running it through here, it's up to 10%. So,
and that's lower than the local farmers even recommend, because we want our sap to be thoroughly caramelized when we're cooking it. And there's another thing we do, by the way, that most people don't. We actually run it a little bit thicker than. So Vermont, if you dig into it, Vermont says that maple syrup exists when you reach a certain level of sugar. What is that? I can't remember the exact number. Hank, is it like 59% or something? What's the percent? It was 59 point something, right? But I mean, there's like Vermont goes a little further than everybody else. Let me look it up.
So while you're looking that up, Bob, Hank, I do want to say, as a connoisseur of your maple syrup, I have 4 kinds of maple syrup in my house right now as we speak. One of them is yours. And I have to say it's my favorite and has been for years. So whatever you guys are doing, you're definitely doing it right.
Oh, thank you. We're doing it the right way.
Yes.
I've got the stuff here. Pure Vermont maple syrup. And I'd like to thank the AI buddy who boiled this down for me. Literally. Pure Vermont maple syrup has a sugar content of 66.9 bricks. Now, what that means is percent. So it's like basis points in economics. It's 66.9% maple sugar, and that's slightly higher than the United States or Canada. In the United States or Canada, it's exactly 66.0%. And so 66.9 is, it's another percentage. It's thicker, more maple syrup.
So Vermont maple syrup is sweeter than...
It's sweeter. And Hank and I, we tend to run it even a little bit sweeter than that, but not much. And Hank will explain why you can't go too sweet.
Sure, because it'll turn into candy.
Candy means fire.
Yeah.
Oh, while you're making it. I see.
Yeah, you're burning the pan. Yeah.
What's wrong with that was my thought, right?
Well, and it turns more caramel, and that's how they make sugar on snow, where it gets to be like brittle candy. So we found this, may I say, sweet spot where we're a little sweeter than everybody else, but mostly for bragging rights, and it tastes good.
The percentage maple sugar is pretty interesting because I bake with maple syrup and also with maple sugar, and I knew that stuff that you sweeten with the same amount of sugar as maple sugar, maple syrup rather, came out a little bit less sweet, not a lot, but now I know why, just because there's less sugar in the. I knew there was a little bit less, but I didn't know how much.
Yeah, 66.9 if it's Vermont. All right, we're out the barn. Let's go out the back.
Yeah, so I can't go down to the sap shed because I got sneakers on. So.
Oh, okay. We can't do that today. That's fine. So that thing that says voucher right there, that is a big, giant stainless steel tank where all of our sap is pumped from all over we have about 400 trees with taps. And it all gets sucked down to the sap shed, we call it, down below, that collects it. And that's where the releaser is for the vacuum pump. Dumps it in there, and then we use a pump. That's how I started. I forget what it's called. There it is. We use a pump to pump it up. Now, that stainless steel thing does not say liter on it, which is the number one producer of stainless steel sugar products in the United States, made in the USA. And we proudly have a lot of made in the USA products. But as it turned out, that particular year, the exchange rate with Canada was fantastic. And we didn't yet have tariffs on Canadian products. So I pissed off my leader guy when he came and saw a Canadian stainless steel. But we did import that from just over the border. Anyway, that's where the sap, the raw sap, comes in. 1.7, 2.7% sugar. And then you're looking now, that's the vacuum pump, which is connected to the releaser down in the sap shed. So you can see how that is all put together. We have everything very well sheltered behind the barn, which again, we are very lucky compared to so many people who have to dig stuff out of the snow every day. And, a lot of problems, but we've made it kind of cozy. All right. Hank, I want to see you again. Let's put you back on the camera.
Okay. Let me just get everything shut up. Okay. So I'm going to go out.
All right.
So let me see.
Yeah, I want you. So it's going to be like the Weather Channel on now. We're going to have graphics of 8 feet of snow burying you alive. I want to have you out in the snow. Talking a little bit about maple syrup and how you, as a Vermonter, came to love doing it.
Yes. So I started doing this probably 2011. Small little operation. It was supposed to be, this is all supposed to be a hobby.
Yes.
Just a hobby. So yeah, I started 2011, just fell in love with it. Just love the process of turning something into syrup, that everybody enjoys. And then Bob came and we got bigger.
We did get bigger. And your girlfriend, she moved on she needed more space. She's at Uranus right now. Actually, that's where she lives.
I drove her crazy about it. Yes.
Yeah. Well, it was her late husband's thing. And then you came in and you did it. And then she, after a while, didn't want to do it again anymore, right? Yeah.
She taught me, and I've taken everything, and I, taught Bob, and we both enjoy it now.
Yeah. So when he breaks up with the girlfriend, I have a conversation with Lisa that goes something like this. Hey, Lisa, you are not making maple syrup here. No, but what if you are not making maple syrup here? And I said, well, what if we just boiled it here and collected it somewhere else? And she said, no, you are not making maple syrup. Anyway, we went through that about 25 times. And eventually, not only were we making the maple syrup, but Lisa was bringing us out dinner. And she was earning her name on the bottle.
I'm just going to turn this around here this way.
Yeah.
So there's as you can see, there's an old sugar house down the roadway.
Yep.
And we didn't.
Yep. That's a little. When we bought this place, someone had put that up just to make it look and feel Vermonty. I think. I don't think they were ever going to make maple syrup. The previous owners, they just liked the idea of having a little sugar shack there, and that would be if we had used it, it would be the most uncomfortable sugar shack in Wethersfield because there's no heat, there's no power, there's no water. It's just, and hats off to people who do it that way. They do it in the middle of the woods. Some of them lease acreage and drive everything in and out. So, all right. So we can't go down.
No.
Can we go to one of the trees where there's a tap, or just the line hanging?
Let me turn it around.
Yeah. Okay.
All right.
Let's go. Let's go look at the lines a little. At this time of year, you walk around and you look for any damage that you might need to repair.
Our neighbor up here, Matt, he's been helping me and he's been checking the lines, and we did some extra things this year that we've never done before, is drain all the lines, the sap that settles in this loop. That way there, when it's time to tap, I don't have to crack the ice.
Yeah. Oh, look at that. Okay. Yeah. So that will get, and by the way, each year that gets a new tap, that gets a brand new check valve tap, right?
Right. Exactly.
Wait,
And
sorry, I missed that. What does that loop do?
This loop here, this is where our tap goes on. All right, we put a new one on every year. So once I come around in the spring, I'll put a new tap, and then we'll drill a hole in the tree, and then start getting sap. At the end of the season, we cut them off.
Got it.
Yeah, and the reason for that is that the check valve is made of rubber, and each year you want to replace the check valve, which costs a few cents, but buys you 50% more maple syrup season. So it's well worth it. And we're coming up to the top of the barn here. This is going to be a good demonstration. You see those giant lines, the black lines, and I'm trying to remember. Let's see. One of them is our internet cable, right?
Yes, one's internet, yeah.
And the other one is just the vacuum. It's the air from the vacuum pump that goes 600 feet all the way down to the sap shed. And that keeps pressure on the trees to keep pushing out as much sap as they can.
So yeah, this is it. All our lines running through the woods.
Now, how many trees are there?
We do about 400.
That's a lot of lines.
One tap per tree.
One tap per tree, 400, and there's 38 acres, but the amount of it that is sugar bush. You call it sugar bush, by the way, which is a nice term, I think.
So all
anyway,
there, those are all. So it's pretty easy where it is.
But the sugar bush is about 10 acres. That's how much maple sugar bush we have. And, it's different every year. Did you have any blowdown? Did you have trees knock down some main lines or not?
No, we've had branches on them. That's about it. No, just some branches. I mean, we've been pretty lucky up here. We haven't had a disaster yet.
So far.
We had a move there, but it did not go through the.
Now, was your sugar bush planted, Bob, or did it just grow in that location?
That's a great question. Hank, you would know the answer to that. Did the original creators of this farm plant, or is this just what was growing on the hill?
I think this is just natural. Vermont's got a lot of maple trees.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes,
so
you're back now.
Vermont's got a lot of maples. Probably about 6 years ago, I was reading, they said that only 1% of the trees are tapped in Vermont. So there's a lot of maples,
Well, I think we have enough. All right. So here's the plan this year. Hank is doing all the prep. I am setting up the store. It's online, BobRivers.com/blog or Bob Rivers Maple Syrup. You can search it any way you like. And we've got the 2 quarts to a package. It comes in a U.S. post office fixed rate shipping because maple syrup is heavy and it would actually make no sense to ship it in a single bottle unless you were buying it for love because you like that specific farm. Can you pan around the farm again, please?
Yeah.
Show people how nice it is. I should also give a giant thank you to the present owners of the property who purchased it from us in 2022. They loved maple syrup and they wanted to keep the maple syrup operation going. So they asked me, is there a way we could get you guys to keep doing it? And I said, sure, we'll work out a split seed deal. And they're the reason, these wonderful people who believe in the legacy of the property, that we get to keep making maple syrup. And they said we could make it as long as we want. And someday, Hank, all this will be yours.
Long time.
I hope so. It's been really amazing to still be here for our 10th year. So anyway, that's a little tour of the maple syrup farm where Bob and Lisa's maple syrup is made. We'll plan on flying there like we did last year during the peak of the season, where I will pretend to help, but I'll be sitting. Actually, my favorite thing is running all the cameras and directing everybody where they have to go because, something's going wrong over here. I used to do the really hard work out in the woods, but I found a gullible young man. Actually, he found me as gullible, and now I'm returning the favor. It's harder as you get older and you have arthritis to run through the woods in the snow.
I'm finding that out. Yes.
Yeah. But that's it. Any questions, Steve?
So when does it show up again? Is it? I have room
when does it
in the cabinet. I'm just saying.
This is like he wants us to be like Amazon. Would you like it between 6 and 10?
I'm not doing this
tonight,
podcast for nothing, Bob.
Yeah. So typically the season ends around April 1st, right?
Okay.
That's when we usually stop. Yep.
Oh, in April.
We've got it as late as like April 6th or 7th. But there's climate change has had quite an effect on Vermont, and even the ski areas, the tourism industry, they can't count on as many weeks of winter as they used to. So we, like every other farmer in America, you keep your fingers crossed that you get a good crop for what you put in, and it's funny right now. You want it to start at just the right time. If it starts too early and we break out all this gear and then there's a deep freeze, then we have to basically stand down and do any repairs that are needed. But if it starts like it typically should, around the last 2 weeks of February, first week of March, and goes to April 1st, we have been able to get as many as 200 gallons. Wow. Although the last few years has been more like 125. So that's what's for sale in the store right now, by the way, is those 125 gallons. And when they're gone, they're gone. Only we hope there might be more. So did I plug the store enough? Yeah. All right. BobRivers.com/blog. Thank you, Steve, for being a mooch for all these years. You're the Cato Kalin of me.
Wait, hold on. I'm the inspiration for the whole business.
Yes, you are. And Hank for giving me this hobby, which really connects you to the land. It connects you to the culture of Vermont. It connects you to and Vermont is a very unique state. Vermont is the kind of state where people just love each other as neighbors. There's very little, and they're all different. I mean, you can have a big giant Trump sign over here with fireworks and blow up balloons and all kinds of stuff, and you can have a a sleepy Joe Biden sign over here, and those two neighbors love each other and will pull each other out of a ditch at 3 a.m, no matter what. Wouldn't you agree? Yep. Hank is, he's in the gun industry, so,
He's still there. Okay.
He wants to make America have more guns again. Right. And we joke around and we tease each other about politics sometimes, but really it's about fun. It's about fun and family, and we're happy to share this with you. If you're interested, go to the store, BobRivers.com/blog.
Thank you.
Cheers, everybody.